What is your business trying to tell you? Here's the thing, our businesses give us an extraordinary amount of information. We notice what gives us energy and what drains it. We notice what we keep putting off and what keeps pulling at our attention. We notice what feels easy to talk about and what has become surprisingly difficult. But here's what I've been thinking about lately. What if some of these things aren't separate at all? What if they're all connected? What if your business has been trying to tell you something and you just haven't been able to see the pattern yet? Over the past few weeks, we've been talking about some of the things that we stopped noticing when we've been in business for a few years. The complexity that just seems to gradually accumulate. The things we become very good at working around. The parts of our business that we assume need to be fixed when perhaps something needs simply to change. And last week we talked about how difficult it can be to see our own business clearly when we're standing too close to it. I've been thinking about all of those things together for some time because individually they can seem relatively unimportant. And you might think, well, I'm just tired of this particular thing, or I just really need to be more consistent in my marketing. Or what about this one? I just have too many ideas to focus on. We tend to push each observation into its own little box. This is an energy issue. This is a marketing issue. This is a focus problem. But I become increasingly interested in seeing what happens when we look at all of those things separately. Because sometimes they are connected. That offer that's taking too much energy may be connected to a marketing issue that you're avoiding. The marketing that you're avoiding may be connected to something that you're no longer particularly excited about offering. And the ideas that keep distracting you may not mean you're unfocused. Maybe they're pointing towards something you're ready to explore. And the part of your business that's working particularly well on paper may be the very part that you're quietly questioning. Now, when you look at each one of those things individually, you can come up with a very reasonable explanation. But when you put them all together next to each other, something else can begin to emerge. A very different pattern. Patterns fascinate me because patterns give us context. One clue doesn't always tell us very much, but several clues pointing in a similar direction, that's when I want to start paying attention. And I think this matters particularly for experienced business owners, because when you've been doing something for a few years, it's easy to assume that, well, the answer is somewhere outside of you. A new strategy, a new business model, a new marketing approach, a new platform. But what if the first place to look isn't outside of your business? What if you begin with the information your business is already giving you? That's a very different way of thinking about what comes next. Instead of immediately asking, what should I do? You might begin asking, what am I seeing? Where is my energy going? Where's my attention being drawn to? What am I keeping hidden? What keeps changing? And what stays unresolved? What do I keep returning to? What am I trying to make work that requires so much more effort than I want to give? And perhaps the most interesting question of all, what happens when I stop looking at those things individually and start looking at them together? Because that's when all those individual clues create a pattern. They mean something. Experienced business owners don't always need more advice. Sometimes we need help seeing the information that's already there, right in front of us. Because when you've spent years building something, you carry a tremendous amount of knowledge about it. You know more than you think you know. But knowing something and recognizing the pattern inside of it are not the same thing. And that's why I've spent so much time thinking about this. I've been looking at patterns that show up again and again in established businesses. Not simply what's working and what's not working. Where is their energy and where is their friction? Where is visibility becoming really difficult? Where is attention being scattered? Where has your business evolved? And where hasn't it? Those clues don't appear randomly. They begin to tell a story. And sometimes that story explains why a business that appears perfectly successful can still leave you wondering, why doesn't this feel quite right anymore? I don't think that's a question we need to rush to answer, but I do think it requires understanding. Because the answer may not be that you need a completely new business or a different business model. It may be that you need a clearer view of the business you've built. So as you move through this week, I want to leave you with one question. Now, this isn't homework. It's not something that I need you to sit down and figure out. It's just something to carry with you. What has your business been trying to tell you lately? Maybe you'll notice something that you hadn't noticed before. And if you do, don't rush to fix it. Just be curious about it. Because maybe it's a clue. Or maybe it's part of a bigger pattern. Your business has been giving you clues. The question is whether you've been able to see the clues and the pattern that's emerging. That idea has become increasingly important to me because I believe the clearer we can see the patterns in our business, the more intentional we can become about achieving and having the business that we want. Now, I spent quite a bit of time recently thinking about how to make sense of these patterns and make it easier for the experienced business owner to see. And I've created something around that idea. Now, this isn't something just to tell you what you should be doing, but rather it's to help you see what may already be happening in your business. See the patterns. I won't tell you all about it today, but I will be sharing it with you next week. I think it might give you a very different perspective about your business, a new lens, a new way of seeing your business. I'm really excited about this, and I do look forward to sharing it with you next week. And until then, I'm Susan Bach. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your time with me today, looking at your business through a different lens. And until next time, remember, patterns leave clues. Understanding the clues changes everything.